Usually we think of a data center as, pretty fragile.
Mm.
Um, Climate-controlled rooms, massive cooling systems, endless rows of those delicate server
Oh,
racks.
absolutely. They're incredibly vulnerable.
Right. But what if you took that massive intelligence, armored it, and literally strapped it to your backpack? For the investors and defense strategists joining our deep dive today, we are unpacking Huginn. It's a $500 Swedish terminal that is, well, it's quietly rewiring the geopolitical map of European defense tech.
It really is. I mean, it forces this profound shift in how we think about tactical computing. You're basically taking cloud-level processing and pushing it right to the absolute edge of the battlefield.
Okay, let's unpack this. So the device is built by a Swedish startup called Gracestack AB. They named it Huginn, after Odin's raven of thought in Norse mythology.
Which is a very fitting name, honestly.
Yeah, it really is. And looking at the source images, I mean, it looks like it already survived a war. It's this rugged, olive green tactical slab, heavy-duty physical buttons, dual antennas, and this super bright 7-inch screen that's just streaming green code.
Right, because it's a fully off-grid AI edge node. But the specs under that hood are what actually matter here. It runs on an RK3588 chip, which includes a dedicated neural processing unit, or NPU.
Wait, let's clarify that for a second for everyone.
Yeah.
An NPU basically allows the device to, think for itself locally, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So it processes AI models right there on the hardware without needing to beam all that data back up to some centralized cloud server.
Spot on. If you lose your internet connection, the brain still works. And for communication, it uses a LoRa mesh network with, I think, a 15-kilometer line of sight range.
Wow, 15 kilometers.
Yeah, and a LoRa mesh means each individual Huginn device acts as a relay, so they create this self-healing local web of communication.
So even if local cellular towers are completely destroyed, the network just stays up.
Exactly. Add in that MIL STD 810H weatherproofing, meaning it's waterproof, dustproof, shockproof, and they're targeting a volume cost of under $500.
Right, but a $500 brick isn't going to disrupt the entire defense industry on specs alone. The real value for you listening is where it's built and how those components are actually sourced.
Yeah, what's fascinating here is Europe's current strategic vulnerability. Right now, there is a massive, and I mean massive, dependency on non-European infrastructure.
Because the chips are designed in the U.S., manufactured in Taiwan, and then assembled somewhere in Southeast Asia.
Exactly. And in a fragmented geopolitical landscape, having your supply chain spread out like that is a massive risk.
Wait, so by using their proprietary AI pipeline, which Gracestack calls Hardware Forge to generate the schematics, they aren't just, saving time.
No, not at all.
They are guaranteeing a clean, auditable paper trail for every single microchip, right?
Okay.
That essentially eliminates the fear of hidden spyware from foreign manufacturers.
Precisely. They offer true hardware sovereignty through just total transparency. The carrier board inside Huginn wasn't designed by a traditional team of engineers. It was designed by Hardware Forge.
Which is wild to think about.
It is. Because of that, every single component and manufacturing file is auditable. Zero black boxes. You know exactly what is in your hardware down to the silicon level.
And it takes hours instead of years.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't just disrupt procurement. That completely breaks the traditional R&D timeline for defense primes. The AI is essentially acting as an entire engineering team.
To bypass all that massive defense contractor overhead, yeah. And that exact auditable sovereign architecture makes Huginn incredibly attractive for immediate defense funding, specifically the NATO Diana Accelerator.
Oh, right. They offer, what, 100,000 euros in Phase 1 funding?
Yes, for dual-use tech answering alliance challenges.
Gracestack's pitch for that is a concept called Mesh Sentry, which uses these Huginn nodes to detect drones. But hold on, I have to challenge this here.
Sure, go ahead.
You're telling me a $500 device can detect weaponized drones. I mean, traditional defense primes use multi-million-dollar active radar systems for that.
Okay.
How can a cheap passive sensor network possibly compete with a massive active radar array?
Well, because they aren't trying to be a radar dish. Instead of one giant radar acting like a lighthouse, blasting out energy and immediately giving away its position to the enemy sentry, Mesh Sentry acts more like a pack of wolves.
Okay, I like that analogy.
You scatter these cheap nodes across an area, they sit in absolute silence, and they just listen, using acoustic, thermal, and RF sensors.
Ah, so when one node hears a drone, it basically whispers to the rest of the mesh network to triangulate the target.
Exactly. It's a localized counter-drone capability that requires absolutely no internet and has no massive radar footprint.
From an investor's perspective, that NATO-Diana connection is huge. That 100,000 euros isn't just a grant. It acts as a fast-track validator for a startup to bypass the infamous valley of death in defense procurement.
Oh, it highly de-risks the play for venture capital. It really is a perfect storm for disruption right now.
All right, to summarize the core takeaways for you listening, Huginn is hitting the market exactly when the drone threat is escalating. European anxiety over technological sovereignty is peaking, and, well, AI processing power has finally become cheap enough to deploy at the tactical edge.
Yeah, it provides a very clear window into the future of decentralized defense.
It really does. Which leaves us with this final thought. We started by imagining that delicate, fragile data center. But if an AI like Hardware Forge can now design sovereign, mil-spec hardware boards in mere hours instead of weeks, turning that fragile server room into a $500 indestructible brick, how soon until the entire global defense supply chain becomes completely decentralized?